Hey there, internet friends. Trevor Starkey here with another Tuesday episode of Trevor Trove Gaming. Today, I want to throw my 2 cents into the whole conversation surrounding microtransactions. On the positive side of things, start there. You have it serving as another revenue stream, another revenue source for developers and publishers to make money. This hopefully, more consistently flatlines and makes game development less cyclical. We don't see, I don't think, as many ramp up to game release and then games out and then they let go half their staff because they need to take time to ramp up to the next game and don't have the resources to pay for them. With microtransactions as like an additional revenue stream, you have maybe some of that kind of easing off, and you have people being able to stay employed instead of kind of going from project to project. So that's, potentially good for the industry. You also have the idea that microtransactions are potentially keeping us at kind of the $60 price point for a game. If you just looking back 10 years ago, the $60 game you bought for your PlayStation 3 at launch would be about $75 now. So we've been very fortunate in that games have kind of flatlined right now at this $60 price point and haven't jumped up to $70 or $80 as kind of the baseline. And I think it's possible that additional revenue has afforded that, especially when you consider how much more expensive game development is these days and how much bigger the games are and how much grander and bigger the worlds in these games are. The fact that $60 as a baseline has kind of stayed as long as it is, I think, is in part contributed to the games being able to make revenue from DLC or for microtransactions and whatnot. Now, on the flip side, I think some of the big cons you have, one of the most notable big cons is that the lines are getting increasingly blurred as to, what is a base game versus what is this additional content that you're going to have access to. Even things like, cosmetic stuff does affect your gameplay experience. And, we used to have all that stuff just kind of built into the games. Like, I look at even something like Borderlands, the whole Borderlands series, all the different skins and stuff that they throw into those games, as random drops or whatever. Yes, they do have kind of a history of you can buy additional packs, but you're buying them and then you have immediate access to them. It's not loot crates where you get a chance of getting the one you want, but you're likely going to have to buy multiple and try multiple crates to get them. Loot crates are obviously making money for these companies because they have gone from selling those kinds of cosmetic pieces directly to the player. They've gone from giving them to the player to selling them to the player, and now to selling them a chance of getting those cosmetics, because people have clearly identified that that's something they're willing to fork out extra cash for. I never got into something like Overwatch, but looking at Overwatch and seeing that kind of mentality be given such a giant pass in Overwatch is one of the things that kind of drives me away from that game and doesn't pull me in, because I think it's kind of crap that Blizzard could, if Blizzard really liked its fans, it would give you those things outright. It wouldn't charge you for all those extra loot crates. It wouldn't make the grind to get more loot crates, especially as you play more and more of the game, that kind of toxic. It wouldn't give you, seasonal things. It would let you, maybe buy a seasonal pass or something like that, and then you get all of those skins that you're after, or even, buying the skins outright. It definitely feels like we've started to see kind of game developers and publishers locking a lot of this kind of content behind these paywalls, whereas they used to just include them in the game. It was part of the content you got. And there are some that still kind of do that as a show of good faith or a business decision where they think they're going to get good press, and they often do. Like something like The Witcher giving a whole bunch of free content in addition to their expansion packs, instead of millions of little expansions that you have to pay for. That got headlines. I think the bigger issue we see with loot boxes in particular, of course, is that it is a very predatory business practice. You're preying on people that have compulsive tendencies to collect every skin in something like Overwatch. So when you have you could only get these skins during this certain period of time, you have players that when they realize they're not going to be able to play enough to get those skins or to grind enough to get those skins, they are going to just kind of drop the cash so they can have that completionist mentality, and that's that's not great. In the same vein, it kind of preys on people with gambling tendencies, and potentially worse, it's introducing those kinds of gambling tendencies into a younger generation. So I think loot boxes are very much kind of the worst possible iteration that we have of this, because it is gambling. It's not gambling in a legal, you need a gambling license sense, but it is gambling to get the content that you want. Yes, the only reason they get a pass legally is because you are still getting something in exchange for whatever you're putting the money down on. It's probably not something you want. It's probably some stupid spray paint thing instead of the skins you actually want in something like Overwatch, but it's there and you're getting something, so that's how this would get by any kind of court case if you tried to, create a class action suit against these companies for gambling and for promoting gambling to children or to people with compulsive tendencies. Taking it away from the loot box spectrum, you have, arguably one of the biggest games of all time, Grand Theft Auto 5, and specifically through their Grand Theft Auto Online, selling basically the cash in the game. And I certainly haven't played Grand Theft Auto Online since, it first came out, and I never really delved into the cash of that market. But presumably, they're making hand over fist. And there's certainly the argument out there that, with all of the things you can do in Grand Theft Auto and Grand Theft Auto Online, $60 is a steal for the base game of that, for the hours of content that you can get from it. But the whole premise of microtransactions is, in a psychological sense, basically just sitting there waiting for you to lose your self-control and pay the money. Even the term microtransaction is often a falsehood. With Destiny, you can spend the highest, I think, set of silver you can buy for Destiny 2 is a $50 pack, which is almost the price of the original game, on top of the original game that you've already paid for. And Destiny 2 specifically preys on you because every time you level up and get one of those bright engrams, you have to go cash it in at the storefront, where it's always sitting there and saying, hey, if you like what you just got, you can roll the dice and get 3 more. Just give us a little bit of money. Just give us a little bit more money every time you level up. And so, all of these things, the reason they are in these games is because they've been proven to make these companies money. But I fear it's making money off of the wrong people, the vulnerable people that are, more willing and susceptible to those kinds of psychological tactics. So all in all, microtransactions, while, keeping the business economy of the industry in a healthier place, I guess, are never going to not feel skeezy and like they should have just been included in the game from the onset. So those are my thoughts on microtransactions. I'm certainly not adding, much new to the conversation surrounding them, but let me know what you think about them in the comments below. As always, I've been your host, Trevor Starkey from TrevorTrove.com. You can follow me at SnarkyStarkey on Twitter, and until next time, from here at the Trove, treasure your friends.